Happy Monday, everybody. It is time for another full week of Full Out Chats. I'm your host, Steve Solberg. Welcome again. We have another great full week of Full Out Chats. Super excited to talk to Julie Horine today, head coach at Indiana University. She's going to have some great stories. I cannot wait to hear her story. I know that she's going to be talking about a lot of different topics. Julie and I are really good friends, and she's a hoot, no doubt about it. She's been in the industry for a while and has a lot of great perspectives. So before we can go full out, obviously we need some music. So it's time to go full out.
Are you ready? Full Out Chats. Do you know what time it is? You got control, we got the right, we got the vision, you lose the sight. We won't never stop. We got the drop, What time is it? We're live in 5, 6, 7, 8.
All right, there it is. Music is on, which means we are now full out. Going to get Julie Horine, head cheerleading coach at Indiana University. Let's see here. She was on. I just saw her, but now she's not. So let's see here. Gotta love live shows, and you gotta love relying on good old technology. I just saw her, but now she's not there. So let's see if she's rejoining me again here soon. We did a test run yesterday, and we were talking through the technology. She says social media is the devil, which I see. Oh, there we go. Now I see. Hopefully this works.
Hi.
Julie!
Hi, Stephen.
I was just saying how I saw you and then I didn't, and I was just saying how we basically had to troubleshoot for, like 30 minutes yesterday for you to figure this all out, so.
I know. I told him, it was like probably walking his mom through how to get on Instagram, so I'm not embarrassed to say I hadn't done it until 2 days ago.
Well, no, I actually a lot of people just have never used the Instagram live feature with the dual, which I think is really cool, but yeah, so I just wanted to obviously, well, first of all, thank you again for taking time out of your day to do this with me, and so later in the show, we will have a Q&A from everybody. So at the bottom of the screen, everybody, you'll see a question mark that looks like a deck of cards. And tap on that, send some questions, and Julie will be happy to answer any questions you have about her, about well, maybe she'll answer them.
I'll do my best.
About her, about the Indiana cheerleading program, because Julie's been there a couple years. She's been there for a couple years. But
that's what I've been told.
Yeah, but I'm excited to hear your story, and I think people will too. But I guess let's just start from the beginning. Kind of, where did you grow up? How did you get into cheerleading? And kind of, we'll just go from there.
Well, I actually have been in Indiana my entire life. So when I was little, elementary age, I lived in the Hanover, Madison area down by the Ohio River. And then late elementary school moved up to the northeast side of Indianapolis. So I'm a Noblesville High School graduate. Go Millers. And that was the last time I ever wore black and gold, Steve.
I've talked to you and Beth about, it just blows my mind how you wore black and gold throughout high school. Clearly, the Millers mascot is a split image of Purdue Pete. And obviously you went to Indiana, but as people don't realize, number one, the rivalry is very real. It's very real. I will even fully admit that majority of the state is Indiana fans. I'm not even going to deny that Indiana is the state school, and I get it, but did you just grow up as an Indiana fan? Was your family just Indiana fans, or kind of how did that happen?
It's funny because it was kind of split, to be honest, and I don't know if it was a thing. But I think once you were in high school, you just kind of started gravitating towards it. I don't know if I was tired of wearing black and yellow. I don't know what it was. I went to school and I wanted to be a teacher, so I was either going to go to Ball State or IU, I think. So I was going to be wearing red. And now I have to go back and tease you because I wore black and yellow in high school. I didn't wear black and gold.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm so
Yeah,
sorry.
Noblesville was yellow then. But the funny thing is, you'll get a kick out of it. We were black and gold, and our school song is the IU school song. So
Oh,
so it's hysterical at Noblesville. So that's the fun part. But you know what? I guess I ended up there, and I agree with you. Like you said, the rivalry's real. It's really awesome because I always tell people, I'm like, it takes both of us to make the rivalry work.
yeah.
So everybody can't be one or can't be the other. And that's the fun thing. But let's be honest, how lucky is everybody in the state of Indiana to have two Big Ten schools in the state?
Oh, absolutely.
So,
that my background is I went to Wisconsin, where the first thing that I noticed when I took the Purdue job was, growing up in Wisconsin, there's just Wisconsin. There is no other in-state big school, so everybody's a Badger fan. Where I moved to Indiana, and then all of a sudden you have Purdue fans, you have IU fans, you have Notre Dame fans, you have Ball State fans. You have all these different, like Southern Indiana, you have Louisville fans. I mean, it's just you have all these schools, these huge schools right by each other, and that blew me away. And people ask me all the time, like, man, you and IU must be like really battling for recruits. And the funny thing is, I'm like, yeah, I mean, we definitely have kids that are considering both, but I would actually say majority, they grow up one or the other. They're not really even considering the other school, which kind of blows my mind.
yeah, I think sometimes it depends on how diehard their parents are or were, because, if you have parents that are both IU grads and their son or daughter wants to go to Purdue, they might be paying for school on their own because it depends on how much.
Like, no joke. I had a girl her whole family went to IU. Everybody, both sets of grandparents, parents, all her siblings, but she wanted to go to Purdue for engineering. And no joke, for her senior game, which is the bucket game,
Yes.
they wore red.
Oh no.
They just can't wear it. It was, I know it's actually kind of funny, but now that I'm in it, I get it. I totally get it. It is a friendly rivalry, I would say, for the most part. And I know that we've had our fair share of fun moments with that. And so how did you get into cheerleading then?
I remember being really little and, at the time living in Hanover, it was just a small town thing you did. And I think this does age me a little bit. So, but at the time you could cheer and also do other sports. So it wasn't like you had to only be specialized in cheerleading. So I'll be honest, like all through starting 5th grade was the first time I was on an organized cheer team, but going all through middle school and high school, I cheered, but I also was in the gymnastics full season. I know people find this hard to believe because I'm a whopping 4'10", but I did play basketball for a year here, Steve.
I believe it.
So, we ran track. So you did a fall and a spring and a winter sport at the same time you cheered. So I think it was just part of it, and did it all through junior high and high school. And, I did want to go to IU and I did want to cheer. And I'm lucky enough it worked out. I mean, I had a really awesome time my freshman year. So my freshman year was cut a little short because I had a really good time. But I mean, I'm real about it. I enjoyed college and, I worked hard and came back, and, the standing joke was kind of with my parents. I wasn't sure I wanted to go to college and just have never left.
So talk about, like, at the time, how was the tryout process at IU?
Well, as an incoming freshman, you could only try out in the fall when I was a freshman. So then there were 2 cheer teams, and then there was a pom squad, which would look more like an all-girl cheer squad now. So you could try out for that team. And so at the time, the cream squad, which is the co-ed squad, thanks for that picture, Steve. That's awesome. Listen, I think everyone who cheered in the 80s had that sweater, that's like iconic, and it's retro, it's back.
And the perm. Absolutely.
I know. But the funny thing was, everybody had that same perm. So, it wasn't just me. I wasn't a trendsetter, trust me. But we had the cream squad, there were 6 couples on the cream squad, which is, what everyone knows as the co-ed squad now. The crimson squad then was also a co-ed squad, and they were kind of like a building up to the cream squad, and there were 4 couples.
Okay.
And then we had 18 on the Palm squad, which would now look more like our current Crimson squad. So, that was just different. And we still practice on the same days. And Chuck Crabb, who's been a part of the Indiana cheer program forever, I mean, he's a legend, and he's still with us. And, we did the same things. You did your cheer, sidelines, the fight songs, and, tumbling if you could. Tumbling wasn't as strong then, but that's kind of what it looked like back in the day.
And who was coaching IU at the time?
When I went to Bloomington, my coach was the legendary Bill Patterson.
Yes.
Good.
So talk about Bill. I mean, for those people that do not know Bill, he is NCAA. He was with NCAA. He still is with many years. And obviously with the merger, then obviously came under the varsity brand. But kind of talk about Bill Patterson. He is a legend within not just Indiana community, but I mean, really, if you know your cheerleading history, people know Bill Patterson.
Yeah. I mean, what else? I mean, what can you say? I mean, Bill Patterson genuinely is one of the greatest people who walks the face of the earth.
Yep,
I mean, nothing to do with cheerleading. I mean, as a human being, I don't think there's a person who cares more about people more than Bill Patterson. Now he is he's a Hoosier through and through.
Yes, he is.
I appreciate him. He wears his candy stripes down there in Dallas. I love it. And Bill was awesome. Tons of energy. And if anybody knows Bill, that trumpet went with him to the stadiums, when he was coaching. But I tell you, the cool thing about Bill is I'm 99% positive, but he's responsible for actually the motions to our IU fight song. Not Indiana, but IU fight song. He's the one, I believe, that was collaborating and came up with those, and we still do it to this day. So when he did that when he cheered, but he was our coach for a couple years, and I think I drove him crazy. I remember being separated by one of my friends at a game. He was like, "You'll cheer on this end, and Julie, you'll cheer on that."
Like in kindergarten when they separate the kids at time.
I guess I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be. I mean, I probably would have kicked me off my own squad probably, but he was great. And then going into my senior year, Bill had an opportunity to move to Dallas to work at the headquarters for National Cheerleader Association. And, he took that, and this is kind of that moment in time where everybody says, how did you do this? How did you get to your spot? Well, I always say there's 3 men that made 3 small decisions probably in their lives that absolutely 100% put in motion what I'm doing today. And, it started back the summer before my senior year in high school when I attended a UCA camp, and my head instructor at that time was Lewis Robinson, who was an Ohio State cheerleader. And at the time, Ohio State was the epitome. That's where you went, you were going to go to Ohio State and cheer, and they were winning the national championships and all that. And there were a lot of them, but he was my mentor, and he gave me an application to try for UCA. And then at IU, Bill Patterson had named me captain going into my senior year at IU. And then when he took the job in Dallas, Chuck Crabb called me in and said, "What do you want to do?" And I looked at him as going in to be a senior in college, and this would never happen today.
No.
And I looked at Chuck and I said, "I want the job." And he looked at me and he goes, "Okay."
I couldn't even imagine. It would never happen.
So I actually cheered and quote unquote coached my senior year, and there were the 3 teams, and we just kind of ran with it. And Chuck and I have been together ever since. So my first year coaching was 88, 89. So, and like you said, can you imagine having a player coach to this day? I mean, it could never happen.
No, not even close. No.
So I've been coaching ever since.
So when you were at Indiana and cheering at Indiana, did you guys, obviously, clearly, number one, you had some great game day experiences. If I'm not mistaken, did you guys go to 4 straight bowl games at that time? I believe, yeah. Indiana football was very strong. Obviously, Indiana basketball. And for anybody who doesn't know, it's real in terms of like the state of Indiana and our passion for basketball. It's unbelievable at all schools and all high schools. But kind of talk about the game day experience at Indiana at the time for you and with football and basketball.
Like you said, back in those times, for both of our schools, because both of our schools were super strong in football, and the basketball rivalry was and still is, awesome. But it was amazing. In my 4 years, like just football alone, let's just take that. We still traveled and we did all those things. And my senior year cheering, there's my senior, that's my team, my senior year. So, and I had the world's greatest cheer partner, and he and I were partners for 2 years. And, but we actually I'm the what if girl. Like, what if we can do it? We can beat them, and we beat Ohio State and Michigan both in the same season at Indiana for football that season.
Oh, wow.
And it was awesome. I'm not going to lie. And, we gave what Ohio State has labeled to them their darkest day in football history. They lost to Indiana. So, I love that. And, but it was special. And we did go to bowl games and had those big experiences. And, I think that's your drive for kids now. It's like, you want them to have those experiences. Everything makes sense as to why you're so diehard. And, it didn't get any better, but, basketball, I was fortunate to cheer during the Coach Knight, Coach Katie era. One of the greatest coaching rivalries ever. And then to be a part of those games. And, when I cheered in Assembly Hall, my 4 years, I only saw us lose, I think, 3 games in Assembly Hall, my whole 4 years, because you didn't lose. But it was awesome. We won the 87 championship in basketball, when I was there, and had a lot of, it just, it doesn't get any better. And, of course, we are happy that we say, we have the greatest timeout in basketball, college basketball. And, there's nothing better than doing William Tell as an IU fan. Doing that timeout is one of the coolest experiences ever. And then to be down on the court is amazing.
I was actually going to ask you that. I'm always very impressed with that timeout. I really am. I remember I've seen it. It's on YouTube. You can find it everywhere because it really is. It's one of those iconic timeouts that people have seen and talk about. Number one, when did it start? Do you know? And who choreographed it originally? Do you know?
Yeah, the stories, I know they worked with the band, and it was, it's been around since the 70s, early 70s.
Okay.
It could be a little before that, but the timeout was started with the band director at the time, and they were working with the cheerleaders, and we run the Go Big Red flag that goes around first. And, the William Tell timeout consisted of that, and then the traditional circles, and then we extend, and it's always been a guy. It's been a guy like a rite of passage in an extension, and the waves of flags, and, they, with the 2 circles with the girls, their motions going up and down and that was really what William Tell consisted of at the time. So for years and years and years, that's what it was. So I believe probably my senior year when I was coaching, I think Chuck laughs about this. I think I looked at him and I said, Chuck, wouldn't it be awesome if we had 2 really big flags so I could do things with? And, and he's like, okay, very well, coach, we can do that.
Yeah.
So, then we added the 2 big flags to it. So, you had the Go Big Red, the 2 big, and that was kind of what it was. And then when we had games at the then RCA Dome, where it was Kentucky, Louisville, Notre Dame, Indiana, on a Saturday, sometime within those games, we started doing it, and I had approached Salim Habash at that time and said, hey, will you do something with me, do a part of this? Because, they had their flags and all that. So we started with the Go Big Red flag, and then we had one of our big flags come out, one of theirs came out, and then ours and theirs. So then the next year, I'm like, that was awesome. And so I secretly bought Indiana. So when we were at the game again, and Salim's got his flags, and with us, and, we started it out, and we had the alternating big flags, but then I ran out and spell out Indiana, and he was like, oh, really? Yeah. So then the next year, he brought Kentucky. We had the Indiana, and all of these flags are on the court at the same time. So then the next year, I had to buy Hoosiers. So I had to one-up him, and then he brought Wildcats. And then we brought the gigantic 2 flags that both schools have, and then we also had a black flag. It's crazy at that time with the oval IU, what we call the Cam Cameron logo. So we had all those flags going at the same time, and it became like the flag war timeout. That people would look forward to, and that's kind of how it was created. So, I kept looking at Chuck and saying, wouldn't it be awesome if you bought me Indiana? Wouldn't it be awesome if we could Hoosiers? And it just kept going and kept going and kept going. So, people nowadays, IU fans nowadays think it's been that way forever, and it hasn't been. So it
Okay.
actually, like, it was an evolution of William Tell over time. And I'm telling you, Steve, every school has their thing, but
Yep.
that is it. That's it. That's the thing.
So really what you see today with the massive hysteria of flags really kind of started like mid-90s, late 90s?
Well, yes, because by my senior year, I would have asked for the two big flags. So that would have been 88, 89. Yes.
Okay, cool. Very cool.
I think it should be there.
So another part, obviously, of your life is UCA, and you staffed UCA. So kind of talk about how did you start getting involved with UCA, first with staffing, and then, kind of from there.
Yeah, so we talked about that. So I said the summer of going into my senior year, and I attended UCA camps as a high school athlete also, and that's what I wanted to do. I looked at those people and the Bonnie Brights, that were working at the time, and she went to high school at Jay County, and like I said, all the Ohio State cheerleaders there. That's what you wanted to do, and that was truly like my first dream come true in cheerleading. So I started working in 85. My mom drove me to Oxford, Mississippi for work week and dropped me off at 17. And I'm pretty sure she thought I was never coming back. For sure, but it was an eye opener. And I will tell you that summer I met some of my best friends to this day and didn't know it. People I talk to every single day, and it's 100% because of UCA. So and I worked for them ever since. I taught camps, I think, for 20 years, 18, 20 straight. Excuse me. And that also, did college camps, which was great. And you really, really had to earn it back then because we didn't have specialized cheerleaders. You had to do it all. And even if you didn't possess the skill, you may have had a head instructor that said, hey, and watch Julie as she does a standing full. And I may have never but I was going to hit it because that's what we did. But, I did that. And got to go all around, met everybody in the Big Ten, which was awesome. And that experience, I traveled overseas with UCA, whether it was, was then All-Star, now we're All-Americans. Been to London twice, Paris twice. I got to go to Tokyo with a great friend, Kara Hurt, and judge a competition over there.
Oh, cool.
Random. So that was awesome. And then it led to varsity.
I don't think a lot of people know that is your full-time job is not just coaching IU. Your full-time job is working with varsity and doing obviously uniforms and sales and things like that. So kind of talk about, you've been with UCA, and which ended up being kind of under the varsity umbrella. Pretty close to the beginning, and you've been there for a while. Kind of talk about that evolution and kind of talk about the history of UCA and kind of how it has become what it's become.
Yeah, so I have actually been with UCA varsity brands, however you want to look at it now, since I was 17. So I graduated high school at 17 and have been with them ever since, and 100% that was not what I went to school for, to do that. But, life happens and opportunities present itself. But, it was just to be a part of UCA, like I said, the mid 80s, and it wasn't big. And I can remember there were 10 people in my rookie class, and there weren't even really 100 people on staff. And so
total in the whole country.
Total. And so then when you look at it now, it's just mammoth where it was, but, UCA at the time, were they were the innovators, the leaders. They were doing that. And yes, they were an extension, of other, there were other groups out there that did that, but, we really took pride in being the best. And, the stunting, the safety, the education side of it, I think that was so important to the company as a whole, as far as that portion. And, and really, really, really brought cheerleading to where it is, and, they're responsible for the first televised championships that we all enjoy. And it just it's hard to explain because you don't want to be that person who go, well, back in my day, this is the way it was. But I think it's hard for anybody now to really understand, how the expectations were so high. You met them. that was what you had to do. So,
Mm-hmm.
but it was just amazing. Like I said, in varsity, I remember thinking that would be kind of a cool gig. You know, I could sell some uniforms,
Mm-hmm.
and we didn't have sales reps for a long time. I mean, across the country, not what we have now, and where you have multiple people in every state. And I know my friend my friend Kelly Fulton, who is a Wisconsin grad,
Mm-hmm.
and she and I worked staff together. But we had called varsity, and we're like, "Hey, wouldn't it be kind of cool if you had some reps in Indiana?" So I'm not kidding you. We called Don Trandom, and that's how that happened. And well, Kelly ended up working. The first year we had a true official sales rep in Indiana. Kelly did it because there was a reason why I couldn't do that. She then left Indiana and moved back to Chicago.
Uh-huh.
And then Colleen Shaney called me, and I've been doing varsity ever since. So at the time, I was the only varsity rep in Indiana,
Mm-hmm.
from border to border, doing it. And I just finished my 30th selling season now, and I believe there are 8 of us now.
Just in
Eight,
Indiana.
just in Indiana.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
So,
Crazy.
so kind of funny that you basically just called UC and said, hey, you should basically create this position, by the way, and I'm interested. Which is
Kind of
awesome.
like I did at IU. Who knew?
I mean, hey, like they can say, you don't know if you don't ask. I mean, hey,
That's right. And I guess I didn't know this too. I'll kind of call myself out. Clearly, I must say the phrase, sometimes you got to ask for forgiveness and not permission.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I guess the worst thing they'll do is say no.
Mm-hmm.
But, there was actually a thought process through most of it. I didn't just kind of like just willy-nilly out of the blue say, hey,
Yeah.
can you give me a job?
Yeah.
But, they were down that path, and they were starting that, and I loved the company, and I loved a varsity uniform.
Mm-hmm.
You loved getting that catalog, and get it, and it was exciting. And you'll love this, Steve. That was back in the day when we all wore Converse shoes, and there was a time where you had Converse shoes and you got markers and you got to color, the little side part in the star. So you got to color what you wanted with a marker. So it's just awesome. The whole thing was awesome to be a part of the big picture.
So, how many years now have you been specifically with Varsity UCA in terms of apparel sales?
Apparel sales, I'm going into my 31st season.
Oh, wow. Okay. And so, with that, what would you say has been kind of the biggest evolution for you in regards to apparel sales and kind of that position?
I mean, it's just gotten bigger. You're more of a resource, I think, for coaches and athletes. I never went into it. I never considered myself to be a sales rep.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to be somebody like yourself, somebody that they would use us as a resource, whether it was, hey, I have a question on safety. I have a question on camps. I have on that. So and I think with also coaching, it also keeps your mindset in that direction. So, varsity didn't have as many product categories, I think, at the time, because the industry didn't actually have those. They didn't require those. So, it's been really awesome to see. We're doing more than uniforms and warm-ups, and we got into the practice gear, and I'm a big proponent of practice gear because as a coach, I have to see everybody in the same thing. And even if I have an athlete that's wearing last year's red shorts, that makes me crazy. And I have to have that same picture. I want it to all look alike, and that's been a big, awesome thing, because I think varsity kind of grabbed a hold of that and has done an awesome job. So I think that's more of a coaching mindset for me, rather it being a salesy thing. So and then to watch varsity create their own line of shoes, it's just awesome. But I think I want to be more of a resource than I am a salesperson.
For those of us joining us, I'm here with Julie Horine, head cheerleading coach at Indiana University. She's also a rep for Varsity Spirit Brands. So let me find the picture here, because we can chat about that quick, because I
should have looked at your pictures before.
For you, this is a family affair also. Kind of talk about, the family affair of cheerleading. Your sister Beth is, I think and anybody who chooses to own an all-star gym, I think, is crazy. And so, but just kind of talk about how this has become a family affair for you.
Well, in this picture, Beth is there, and in the center is Lisa. That's our sister Lisa too. And Lisa, all of us cheered in high school, and Lisa actually cheered at Ball State herself too. Beth was at IU, and she did like the IU Fit, and she was the fitness guru and all that kind of fun stuff. And I have to tell you this story. My father had always told us, you girls make sure you get your degree because you're never going to do a thing with cheerleading.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one thing he said. Well, Lisa likes to remind Dad that she's the only one that paid attention because she didn't go into coaching or do all that. So, but I tell you, Beth owns, she's one of the co-owners of Indiana Elite All-Stars in Noblesville, Fishers area. And, as her sister, super, super proud, of her. And the story of how Indiana Elite came about is they had started a year, and she worked with Patrick McDermott, who was a former cheerleader at IU, and he also coached with me. And those two and I sat down, and they were kind of like, can we do this? And the idea came from, at the time, you had Craig Monty and Brian Elza at Kentucky Elite back in the day. So Beth, we'd all kind of talked, and so because there was Kentucky Elite, the name Indiana Elite came about. They were the Wildcats, so they're the Dogs.
Yep.
They're blue and white. They're red and white. Literally, that's kind of how it came. And they talked, and they said, Patrick and Beth looked at each other, and they said, think anybody will ever be interested? Think we can make this work? And, I would say she and her business partner, Carlette, McClure there, it's amazing. It's an amazing, organization. They care about those kids, and, hundreds and hundreds of kids coming in now there, and those little pound puppies, they have those little bitty ones are so awesome. But, it's been interesting. And Beth was a high school teacher.
Oh yeah, that's right.
She coached cheerleading at Noblesville High School, came back at her alma mater, and then this took off, and it's been her full-time gig. And it's just, like I said, who would have ever thought? Who would have ever thought?
A reminder here in about 10-15 minutes, we'll be doing a little Q&A with Julie. So at the bottom of the screen, if you have any questions for Julie, for her about the Indiana cheerleading program, varsity, you see anything like that, just tap on that question mark at the bottom and type us in a question, and she'll be happy to answer them later. So at Indiana, kind of talk about the evolution of Indiana cheerleading, because you said at the time when you cheered, it was co-ed only. And I think like a lot of programs, and myself included, kind of had to, change with the times, where all girl cheerleading started blowing up. And I think you, like us, were kind of in the situation where you were probably cutting, or, these females who are excellent cheerleaders, excellent skills, but they're not a co-ed flyer. And kind of, you probably saw the need. So kind of talk about how the evolution of the all-girl program happened at Indiana.
Well, I'll tell you how the Crimson Squad, which is our all-girl team, became the Crimson Squad that everyone knows it today. Like, again, they were a co-ed team of 4 couples. And at the time, like I said, Patrick McDermott was coaching with me. And on our drives back and forth from Fishers to Bloomington, I think I looked at him one day and I said, Patrick, you think we need to change Crimson and make them an all-girl cheer team? Because there were so many, I'll tell you what it was. There were so many talented athletes. There's these young women that back then didn't fit the quote unquote stereotype of a co-ed flyer, and so we were turning away amazing women that could be great representatives of Indiana University. They were athletic. They loved the school. And you started seeing the evolution of all-girl cheerleading. And as that grew in the state of Indiana, as you know, we do not have a lot of co-ed high school teams to draw from. So just because she was, 5'9", does that mean she couldn't cheer at a Division 1A Big Ten school? No. So, we said, let's just see what happens. So we picked our first, all-girl team, and we, had our hurdles and our whatever, but we did it. And I like to believe that we've been pretty successful, with that portion of our program. So, but my favorite thing, I think it was one of my best decisions that we made with the coaches at the time, is because hands down, I would say for sure, I've been blessed with amazing young women that have come across me that were taller than 5 feet tall. And I'm thrilled that I've been able to, and that Indiana's been able to provide an opportunity for them to be a part of college athletics and have that experience. So I love to say, we have women of all heights, you have everything. And it's not very stereotypical anymore of the old school mentality.
What was the first year of the all-girl program at IU?
I believe we just wrapped up our 15th season.
Okay, cool. Okay.
So it's been quite some time. So
So you kind of brought it up. So here we go. There's the picture of your kind of one of your staff. Talk about, you've had a lot. First of all, the one thing that when I came to Purdue, one thing I was just so jealous of, which I feel like I finally have developed that you have, is just a loyalty. Again, nobody at IU is a full-time position in coaching. Like, literally, you, including yourself, which is, I think a lot of people don't know, is you drive over an hour to go to Bloomington because you don't live in Bloomington, and you have, and pretty much, if I'm not mistaken, all your coaches do that. They drive over an hour to practice and to go to games, and so obviously the loyalty is there. Kind of talk about how you have developed your staff and kind of how, I guess for me, it's also kind of, the question is like, how have you convinced these people to do it?
No, I will tell you again, it's awesome. I think one of my biggest goals for me as a coach, and, I don't like to the label head coach or whatever. That's funny. I just think we all coach. That's what we do. And, I want people, when they come to the program, to love Indiana University and Indiana athletes. And they love their teammates. And, I always say it's bigger than cheerleading. So I think it depends on what your measuring stick is, how successful it is. So, I think if they can come, have a strong connection, and I tell them you're going to meet your best friends, your bridesmaids, your groomsmen, you all going to go through marriages together, divorces together, unfortunately, kids together, whatever. Yep. These are your people. These are your people, your inner circle. And, for a long, long time, it was my desire to only have people work with me that had been through the program. Number one, because they have that pride of it. So when they come back to it, but I've had several people that did not actually cheer at IU that have been an enormous part of making it successful. Kaylee Johnson was my first Purdue grad. Like Al Inlow was with me for a long time, and he coached at Purdue after he left Indiana, and it's been awesome, and we couldn't do it without each other. But right now, currently, all 6 of us live in the Indianapolis area. So yes, to your question, your point, we all drive an hour, 15 minutes one way to every practice and every game. Now, all my Hoosier fans out there know when 37 South was blocked, sometimes it was taking us 2.5 hours to get to a practice.
Yep.
We drive back, so.
Julie, come on, no construction in Indiana never happens. Come on.
I know, and you know what? Wouldn't it be great if they were to fix it right now?
Right.
Nobody's out. Get that done. Like when they gridlocked us last year in Indianapolis.
Oh my God, Nicole, I think, was ready to literally kill people, because like I said, a normal hour 15 was 2.5 hours, and it was just unbelievable. But no,
brutal.
Clearly, obviously, you've been very blessed with a great alumni, great staff, but kind of talk about, as I can find the picture here, obviously, like you said, you guys have done an excellent job of building and creating one of the most, in my opinion, elite collegiate all-girl programs in the country. You guys have won, if I'm not mistaken, 6 UCA national championships in the last 8 years. Excellent. Kind of talk about, but what people don't know is, it's not like Indiana All-Girl kind of just came out of nowhere and then just started winning. You guys were competitive. You guys were a top 5 program. Your All-Girl team was competing at the time. Kind of talk about how the program took that corner, and then all of a sudden Indiana being known, as this hugely competitive team.
Yeah. First of all, I do have to give a shout out to my co-ed squad, my cream squad, because as far as the competitive program portion of our program, the cream squad, which is our co-ed squad, they were the first team to compete. And competed for years and years and years. Our first time we competed, we went to when the championship was in San Diego.
Oh,
we didn't
nice.
we really didn't know what we were doing. We're like, let's put it together. And I'll tell you, that trip was when the wonderful, great Myron Doan, who was the longtime coach at Moorhead, took me under his wing and said, just get those kids here and I'll walk you through this. So he was instrumental too. So for years and years and years, we competed the co-ed squad. And then obviously we didn't have the all-girl team at that point.
Yep.
Then we became extraordinarily competitive on the dance team sector of that also. And when we were doing that, our choreographer, who he and I met when we were working on the movie Blue Chips together, but our choreographer was the infamous Tony G.
I know Tony G. Yep.
Of the Bring It On movies. So we kind of tease him and like to say, you got your start from Indiana cheerleading. So, but he was a hoot, and just the things we did with him was great. So we competed both those teams at the same time. And then when we changed the Crimson Squad to be an all-female team, that started in, and we did go for a weekend.
Did we lose Julie? No. Sorry, you cut out there for a second, Julie. No big deal.
Sorry. So I said we competed all three teams for a short period of time too. So, but we worked as far as the Crimson Squad. that's the one. I think when you take that portion of our program, that's again, like I go back to what's your measuring stick. So sometimes people say, well, only the all-girl part's great. Well, they're all great. The Cream Squad at a game is top notch. So, but Crimson, we did well. We were competitive. We were up there, and let's just say that opportunity presented itself, and made a phone call one day to the infamous Tony Nash, and there was a time when he was maybe looking for something else, and I said, you ever thought about Indiana? I go, you would look amazing in red. So we spoke, and a lot of conversations, and somehow, some way got him to Bloomington. So at the time, really, Moorhead was the team that we couldn't beat. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
He was at Moorhead. They were they still are. They're amazing. But it's kind of that old thing. If you can't beat them, make them join you. So opportunity was there. Made a phone call, and I say, I tell Tony to this day, he always wonders, like, why did I come to Indiana? And I like to say a few years ago, when we officially made his why come true, because he met his lovely wife, because of that. And I said, there's your why. There's your path and why you came to Indiana. So he came here, and I said, it was a learning curve, and, he kind of took a deep breath. And that first year, we had our challenges, and I won't say what he said to me because it was funny, but it's been kind of a motivator for me. But it was awesome. It was awesome for someone who was so enormously successful, and probably the most humble person I've ever met that's that successful. But that first year we went down there, and then, ball game was on, and this is how, so the expectation level was raised, and this is what we're going to do. And so we've been super, super, super blessed, and, we do not ever take it for granted. We got knocked down a couple of times, but you don't take it for granted. So winning feels awesome, but when you don't, it's tough, but.
First of all, in about 5-10 minutes here, we're going to do a Q&A here with Julie. So again, if you have any questions for Julie about the Indiana Cheerleading program, feel free to tap on the question mark at the bottom and send us a question, and Julie will be happy to answer those. How has it been for you in regards to the mindset of, hey, we want to be competitive. We want to do well too. Well, kind of like you said, when you don't win, that's the heartbreak now. It's kind of talk about how has that been for you as a coach regards to that mindset change?
Honestly, and like I said, and as a competitive coach yourself, and this is what we tell our teams, all the time, the competition part for them is the one time of the year they get to do something for themselves. Because it's the one time a year where they are the lead actress in the play, and they're not the supporting cast. Because, we support everybody, every athletic team, your marketing department, everybody, and we love what we do. But it's the one time they get to truly show their athletic skills and what they can do, and that competitive nature, that raw, just that grit, and you love that. But, it was a mindset change, and, Coach Yeagley, our soccer coach, he told them, winning's a privilege. Winning's a privilege. So you have to know how to handle that, because, if you've never won, you don't know that feeling. But then, like, as Tony tells those girls all the time, you know, we have a target on our back. So you've got to know how to channel that. And, you know, he's such an amazing leader in the trust the process. You know, I think coaches say it all the time, and kids are like, oh, they all say the same thing, kind of like your one last time, full out, whatever we want to do. We all have our phrases, but he is methodical. And it's been awesome to learn from him and grow. And, you know, and we, the six of us, I mean, it is a group effort, you know, what you do. And, you know, we do things big, and we go down there. We had probably 125 some odd parents and family there for us this year. And, and I like to say to everyone programs too, but I have the best cheer parents in the world. They're amazing. But, you know, Steve, I don't know. It's awesome. It's special. And, you know, when you are fortunate to do well a few times too, you know, that's tough too. And it's good. Now, I will tell you secretly, our goal was to get as many as the basketball team. So we got them. So so our next goal is the soccer team. So, you know, it's fun. I will tell you, they're very respected. Our coaches are super respectful. They're great. They come in, you know, you've had a lot of coaches, you know, Purdue walk in, and they really do respect our athletes, I think, more. And I think it's important that they hear that, because they are forever everybody else's support. So it's nice when they get that love. And the Crimson Squad, their biggest fan is Landon Turner, who is one of the great IU basketball players of all time. And he loves his little sisters, like he says. And, you know, he gives them a shout out. But, you know, these women that have been a part of those championship runs, and all the coaches that have come with it, and all the parents, you know, it's priceless. It's priceless, and you don't take it for granted.
100% agree with you. I think that obviously the respect between each other has been unbelievable, and we'll kind of talk about that here after my next question, which is, as we kind of chatted about yesterday as we were prepping for this, obviously with the COVID-19 epidemic we're all dealing with college coaches. I'm quite sure it's probably some questions that have been asked, but I'm just going to, I'd love to give you the platform in regards to talking about, well, number one, how have you been handling it in regards to the whole situation? But Indiana's, I know that, like we talked about, literally it's probably like your fifth version of how you can do tryouts. But just for the people that are wondering, you know, what is Indiana's plans for tryouts, and how are we going to handle that this year?
Well, I do appreciate you letting me be able to talk about it. And it's like we are on plan 5, I believe, plan 6. You know, we were hopeful we were going to hold out. You know, we were hopeful that we could have live tryouts in May, you know, but it doesn't seem like it's going to be that way for anybody. And we found out, you know, we can't be on campus till August 1st. So our plan, and we hope to have the details later today, by tomorrow, is that we are going to have to do things via video. And I believe, you know, we're going to end up having like preliminary rounds. And once we're able to gather again and be on campus, get to like a last round, and before we announce our rosters, because, you know, we don't want to miss anybody for sure. And it's going to be challenging for every coach out there. Everybody's on the same playing field right now to get the information out there. And it's going to, hopefully the athletes will start seeking us out, and, you know, we'll do the best we can. But, you know, we've got our material, and we're going to have to rely on them, because they're a little more tech savvy than I am. So they can, we'll send it, and we're going to do the absolute best. And I did reassure, you know, all of our coaches, we are going to be fine. We are going to get through this, you know. And one of our big things in our program this year is, you know, we had courageous faith about whatever. And, you know, there's a little irony now, and we talk about every day our faith has to be bigger than our fears. And, you know, this is just going to be the new normal. And we don't know what it's going to look like. You know, you and I talked about that yesterday too. And someone says, well, we've always done it this way. That phrase, that's the one phrase cheer coaches can wipe away. That doesn't exist. So, you know, we're going to be iron it out, and we're going to look at it, and we're going to look for videos, and hopefully get those in April, and just keep it moving. And we'll keep our fingers crossed that we're all back on campuses in the fall, and can cheer for some games and football stadiums and that stuff. So
we're going to get to our Q&A session here. So hopefully the sound effect works here.
Oh, yeah.
All right, that sound effects mean we are ready for our Q&A session here with Julie. This is actually a really good question right away. Here we go. How did you know your methods were truly working your first few years as a coach?
Well, I'm not sure if I do anything today that I did my first few years as a coach.
Right.
I'll be honest with you, everything's changed, and I think one of the things that anybody who's been in any type of coaching over the course of the year, you have to change with the time. You have to. I do have former cheerleaders that will talk, and I actually was on a Zoom call last week with some guys, and they kind of joked around about this very question. But there's a lot of changing because the rules are different, things are different. Things that happened back in the mid 80s late 80s would never happen now. But I'll tell you, the one piece of advice I got that has stuck, the one thing that has stuck with me for the 30 some plus years, my dad looked me in the eye when I first started coaching, and he said, I'm going to tell you something. He said, you set your rules, you set your expectations, and don't apologize for them. And after you do that, you tell them, if this is the rule, you have the consequence that goes with it. And when they choose to not follow the rule, they then chose the consequence. He goes, so then that's where you got to learn to separate your emotions. So don't ever take it personal that you're doing it to them. They know the rules, they know the expectations. So if they don't do them, here's what's going to happen. So they chose that. So they were okay with that by that choice. So how our parents all told us, make good choices. So I think that probably is the one thing for sure that stuck with me. And I like to think I've evolved over time, for sure. But so that was, I didn't know at the beginning. So I think each year's a new year. Keep on trying.
Let's see here. Some people here we go. Do you have to have tumbling passes to make the team?
Well, we do ask for tumbling, and we ask for what we call the basic tumbling for college teams. Basic tumbling, back handspring, standing tuck, back handspring back. There's a myth out there that you have to have standing fulls to make any team, which would be awesome. I mean, you and I agree with that. Hey,
absolutely.
But no, we want the basic series tumbling, round up, back handspring, tucks, layouts, fulls. Do you have to have a full to make the team? I'll be honest with you, no. We have, in the 6 years that we were very blessed to do well, we have never competed 20 fulls on the floor. Never. And in college we can't use that skill very often, so it's just a hard thing. But we want the basic, obviously, because we got to be able to move forward. And when you've done well, any successful program, you got to be better the next year. So you don't want to always go backwards. We
probably have time here for one or two more. Good question here. How can I get in touch with you about the Indiana Cheer program?
The best way to get in touch with, you can actually email me. We could go on the IU Athletics webpage and then get my information there. That would just make sure it gets to me. I can give you my email addresses, I guess, too. Email is really the best form of communication for me. And I tend to, it's better to email me, and if I have to get to one of the other coaches, I kind of help filter that. But you go on IU website, or you can email me at jhorine@varsity.com. And that would be the best way to get me, and we can answer any of your questions. Perfect.
What people don't realize, something that I talk about, is when I first took the Purdue job, but before I took the Purdue job, the person I reached out to was Mr. Marcus Wolf. and
Wolf.
Good old Dr. Wolf. And Marcus is, for people that do not know Marcus, he's a legend in his own right.
He is. He's awesome.
And I remember when I talked to Mark, because Marcus was my assistant coach at Wisconsin when he was getting his master's degree at Wisconsin. And I remember it was going to be a challenge. There was a lot of things that I was going to have to get over in regards to building that. But, you were one of the first people to really give me some great advice, put me in touch with John White right away, going to UCA college camp, making that switch, which was obviously a big hurdle. But I guess, kind of talk about how you've seen your assistant coaches and your athletes kind of branch out and create their own really successful lives.
I'll be honest with you, and I do talk about this. the standing joke when I always wanted to have a ton of kids personally myself. I always wanted 12 kids. I wanted 11 boys and 1 girl. I wanted my football team and a cheerleader. So that's what, and then, you know what, that just wasn't God's plan for me to have my own. And I never thought I would be in the cheerleading industry. I went to school to be I wanted to own my own daycare. That's what I really wanted to do. I wanted to teach, and that's what I wanted. I just didn't know I was going to be teaching 18 to 22-year-olds rather than, 2 to 5-year-olds. So, but that was my first love. And, when you watch people come through the program at all levels, we do talk about this as a staff, it's our number one goal is that they leave us better people before they leave us better cheerleaders. And I think we do a good job of really doing that. And we've gone through a lot. We went through something super, personal this year within our program. And I tell you, it was one of the most awesome togetherness feelings I've ever had. And, without going into details, about any of that, but it was real, and you could feel it. And, so when you have coaches that have come through, and I love watching my athletes go get their own high school teams. And back in the day when you carried notebooks because you didn't have computers, they had to have notebooks at all their practices. You write everything down. And I did that again this year, but then I go to their high schools and I watch them and their kids are carrying around notebooks. That just tickles me to death, but you want to watch them. And I love seeing them grow professionally, personally, having their kids. And, I have people I cheered with. I've had their sons and daughters cheer for me already. And it's a full circle, and it's so rewarding. And I guess my plan to have that feeling of what it's like to be a mom and watch your kids do well wasn't going to just be with my own. It was going to be just helping parents transition them. And I feel a responsibility when parents drop their kids off in Bloomington, that's who we are to them. So I just didn't realize what God's plan was.
Curveballs in life, right? Just gotta, nothing's what we hope to plan. It's just, never in a million years, I'm sure, did you or myself, I know for me for sure, think that we can make like a living through this cheerleading thing.
Oh my gosh.
I just, like you said, it's unbelievable. And, one of my last questions I always ask, which you kind of touched on, is, kind of the best piece of advice you've ever had as a coach. You talked about your dad's really good piece of advice there, which I totally agree with. But through coaching or as an athlete, kind of what's one thing that you as a coach, kind of a piece of advice that, you still use today?
For sure, that piece of advice I told you about earlier with my dad, too. But I think one of the things I've learned the most about myself, I think, in coaching was not to be afraid to just authentically be me. I think that we have to, sometimes we're so guarded that we can't let them know who we are. I know I'm a pretty private person, too, but, you got to sometimes just put it out there. And I know personally I've grown for sure stronger in my faith over the years, and I think that for sure has helped me. I have been described, Steve, allegedly I was a little feisty.
No.
I have heard that term, but I hope that, and sometimes I do react strongly, too, because, I want people to be doers. I want them to not stand around with their hands open wide saying, give me, give me, give me. And, or I want, I have the sweetest, kindest, those athletes I had this year were amazing. And every single one of those boys, I tell those moms, you did a great job. Those boys hold doors open for women. They, they help carry, not just anybody, whether it's someone that's an usher at our games, they make people feel like $1 million. And I'm like, that's what I want right there. So I guess as a coach, if I can encourage anybody, keep it in perspective. It's just cheerleading, but it's an amazing avenue to grow these kids. And, you and I talk about all the time, and the rivalry's good, but the rivalry shouldn't get in the way of people. You got to be kind. And, and I enjoyed our conversations, and had lots of connections with, I said, Al Enlow at Purdue, and then Elvis Moya, and, going through Arthur Smith, and going through and spending the time. And, I think people would find funny at varsity. I was the varsity rep for Purdue for a long time.
Yeah.
So that was always kind of fun. But, Steve, at the end of the day, what you and I are lucky to do what we do. We're lucky we both have this opportunity to coach at the high level. But I always want to say, Steve Solberg, the person, love Steve Solberg, the person. And you and I have a fun time jabbing at each
Oh
other
yeah.
about the rivalry, but we got to teach our athletes that too.
Mhm.
Because what if they marry somebody or the whatevers? Or what if you have your nephew go to Purdue and play hockey and still can't put on a P when he was there, but I'll put on a black
Mhm.
shirt for him.
Yeah.
But you never know. And, at the end of the
Yep.
day, with what we're experiencing right now in the world, and I hope people come out kinder, gentler, and
Mhm.
it's okay to have different opinions or like different schools, but you
Mhm.
got, man, people be nice, be good.
The 1 hour Instagram live time limit once again got us. And so hopefully here we can start back up and finish out with Julie. Again, the 1 hour Instagram time limit got to us. We were having a great conversation. We were finishing up with Julie from Indiana. And so let's see if Julie here can get back on. Again, with Julie Horine, Indiana University, a good friend of mine. We were just finishing up here. The 1 hour Instagram live time limit got to us, and it literally just cuts you off. It's kind of crazy. There's no countdown. There's no warning. It's just, you kind of got to look, and I was kind of noticing we're pushing that 1 hour time slot, but hopefully here Indiana Cheerleading can join up again. But again, I just want to thank Julie for taking the time, talking about the evolution of the Indiana cheerleading program and what it meant and what it's done. Like I said, Julie's been a good friend of mine, has given me some great advice, and I'm gonna give her here a minute or so to hopefully join back on, and we can finish out our conversation. Again, the Instagram live cuts you off at 1 hour. After 1 hour, you're done ski. It just literally stops. So again, thank you for people that are rejoining. Just hopefully get Julie from Indiana back on here. Hopefully she can rejoin us and rejoin as Indiana Cheerleading, and hopefully we can add her here and finish out our interview. And but no, it's been an awesome opportunity here to interview Julie. For those of you that missed it, if you have any questions, please feel free to email her, jhorine, Horine, jhorine at varsity.com. She's happy to answer any questions that you have about the Indiana cheerleading program, and also tryouts and how they're going to do their video tryouts, like a lot of us, or all of us, really have to do. It's just kind of how we're doing it. So again, I'm going to try to give Julie here a minute. Hopefully she can rejoin here as Indiana Cheerleading, and I can get her back on. But again, we're just finishing up here with Julie Horine with Indiana. She's talked about some, the great evolution of not only that program. She started her own live. Oh, well, that's funny. Let's see if, okay, thanks for letting me know, Jake. I will go to her. Let's see if this works.
Steven.
So you started your own live feed, which I think is hilarious. So I will join you now.
Oh, hilarious!
But so
listen,
Instagram,
and I didn't touch anything. That's even more awesome that I did it.
Instagram Live has a 1 hour time limit. So after an hour, you're done. You've talked too much.
That's hilarious. Yeah, like I didn't touch anything because anybody that knows me knows I'm not touching anything.
But I just know I absolutely wanted to say, like, thank you for all the advice you've given me and the friendship. And I always say the Indiana staff and us, we're the best frenemies ever. We always get our pictures when I go to you guys, or you guys come to us, or obviously the Crossroads Classic and things like that. But I have no idea what happened, but probably Instagram's telling us to shut up so that we can move on here.
Imagine that, someone telling you and I to quit talking together.
But Julie, thanks again for just want to say thank you. I mean, thank you for the friendship. Thank you for everything. Thanks for taking the time today to talk with me about your story. And I'm quite sure we'll have you again. And there's more stories about Julie Horine. So.
That's awesome. Steve, thank you so much. And, I'm super proud of you. I mean, I think this is something that you may be born to do too. So, you got to keep shining, keep following that light and do it. And I think this has been an amazing platform for so many. And, let's see, we'll all get through this together.
Well, thanks you again, Julie. I will let you go. God bless. Stay safe. Stay healthy.
You too.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Go Hoosiers.
Bye.
Bye.